Hello, Solar Body Alchemy friends. Thank you very much for being here with me again today. Apologies, I know that it's later than usual, but I was in a training until literally 15 minutes ago, so I couldn't make it any earlier. Let's talk today about obstacles. Now, how come obstacles is Virgo inspired? Well, we talked about Virgo as the sign that precedes over structure, that how routine is important, how we need inspiration to go through the routine, but also what we're going to talk about today are the obstacles that can prevent us from following a good routine. So, are you ready? Let's see what the tarots have in store for us this Sunday. I'll try to be quick because I had feedback that I am a little bit too wordy, so I'll try to be short. As usual, I am using this tarot deck here, which is the Rider White. And by the way, I want to thank one of the members of the Solar Body community on Meetup, because she gave me the feedback last Sunday. She couldn't join us because unfortunately I was very distracted and I didn't leave the Facebook link for the meetuppers to join us, so apologies for it, and thank you so much for giving me the feedback. You have been very precious. So if you are following me, if you will see this, thank you very much. I really appreciated your feedback, and I hope to see you in one of those lives soon enough. Anyway, let's start with my friends of Aries, and let's see what the tarot have to say in regards to obstacles. Okay, so I'll pick one card. I shuffled it. Aries, your card in relation to obstacles is the Ace of Wands. So I said in my previous readings, aces in general are all about new beginnings, new projects, new ideas. It's like the seed, okay, in general. Now, Ace of Wands is all about passion, is all about energy, is all about really this impetus, this spark that comes into your life when you want to start something new. So the Ace of Wands in relation to obstacles really makes me think, dear friends of Aries, that once you are working on something that really engages you, you pay no mind to obstacles, okay? It's kind as if you consider obstacles as natural part in the process, so you welcome them instead of challenging them, which actually is quite a healthy attitude towards seeing obstacles. Okay, so that's the piece of advice that the tarot have to tell you. Kind of keep up doing what you are doing. Keep up considering obstacles as part of the process rather than something to fight against. Friends of Taurus, let's see what the cards have in store for you. And it is the Nine of Cups. So, friends of Taurus. Now, if you know Taurus, or if you have the good fortune of knowing Taurus, so you will know how they are such sensual people. They might be quite slow, they love good food, they love good company, they love the pleasures in life. That actually is the deep meaning of this card. We see a guy here who is surrounded by nine cups, is very fulfilled, is very content with what he has. Now, dear friends of Taurus, that might be something that it is generally considered a good thing to be fulfilled, but sometimes it can be an obstacle. Why? Because it doesn't give you the drive. Okay, it kind of takes away from the drive that you might have. So this card actually makes you think about, even if you're feeling fulfilled, even if you have everything that you want right now in your life, try not to sit on the proverbial, laurels, but try to kind of set up a new challenge, a new goal that you want to achieve. Okay, so that kind of you are still on the tip of your toes. You don't lose your sparkle because you kind of feel excited for something that is still to happen. Because otherwise, if you feel too satiated, too satisfied, life can become boring. Okay, so try to see what can be there. Okay, what more can be there. Now, moving on. Gemini. Let's see what the cards have in store from my friends, lovely friends of Gemini. Gemini, the Three of Swords. This is quite an interesting card because you see, the Three of Swords usually is a card that represents some sort of grief. Okay, now it can be considered like a negative card, but I am trying to show you another aspect of the card. Now, I don't know enough of numerology, but the little I know is that since it's a small number, because it's only quotation marks a number 3, if there is a grief in your life, it's short-lived. And you know what? Actually, putting this in relation to obstacles, it really makes me think about, since you are a very sharp-minded individual, try not to make a big deal out of a small one. Okay, so if you're coming across problems in whatever you're doing, try to use your razor-sharp mind to put things into perspective and to consider things not like impossible to resolve. So even if there are things that are giving you grief, that grief is not long-lived, okay? It's destined to end sooner or later. And the best thing that you can do, sorry guys, my mobile just went off and I find it very annoying, so I put it on Do Not Disturb. So even if that grief apparently is, it's painful and it's disturbing, try to put things into perspective. Try to consider it as short-lived and use your wits to make the most out of the situation you are in. Okay? Moving on. My good friends of Cancer. Let's see what the cards have for you. The Tower. Woo. How do we put this in relation to obstacles? Well, this card is pretty much self-explanatory because the Tower, it really indicates a distraction of some sort. So the problems that you are facing right now, dear friends of Cancer, might be problems that are really shaking the foundations of your life. Now, it sucks. There is absolutely no way around it, but what I really want you to focus is, rather than the problem in itself, what about the rest? So if you are facing these problems, what are these problems destroying? Okay, perhaps is a way of thinking that doesn't serve you anymore. And I know that if you're losing your job, for example, or if you're losing a long relationship, it might feel like a betrayal because you have invested an awful lot of energy in the job or in the relationship. However, what you should really consider is that job still reflect me? Is that relationship still reflecting me? Or I am in those just for habit? Okay, because you see, like, for example, if you look really closely at this card, those guys here, this couple here, is jumping out of the tower, and in a way, these jump out of the tower mean also literally leaving behind all the false pretenses. So it feels like, you know, you are always wearing a mask, and you need to let that mask go, to show your vulnerabilities, to show who you really are, and to live a life that really reflects and mirrors you, not what others expect of you. Okay? So this is your relationship with problems. It can be, you know, the proverbial blessing in disguise. Try to reflect about that this week. And moving on, friends of Leo, let's see what the cards have in store for you. The Lovers. Now, very interesting, Leo, because during your season, so 1 month ago that it was your season, we were talking about how one of the big themes of Leo is about being authentically seen. Okay, so Leo is all about expansion, is all about being on a stage, is all about showing yourself. How much of you there is in that yourself that you are showing. Okay, and the Lovers. The Lovers means a union. Okay, of some sort. It can be a partnership, it can be a romantic partnership, it can be a marriage, it can be anything. But what can also mean, it can be a union between your rational and irrational part, from your internal and external part. Okay, so you remember what I've told you about being authentically seen. When we are authentically seen, it means that we are bringing outside what we feel inside. Okay, and in this case, in this particular card, there is an angel looking over this mythical couple, because we could consider this couple Adam and Eve. Okay, so the mythical couple, the first man and the first woman. How does it relate to problems and challenges? So, when we face a challenge, when we face a problem, the best thing that we can do is actually not facing it only from one perspective, but trying to be as rounded and as grounded as it can be. Okay, so for example, what I mean with that is, if we use both a rational and emotional part, we can face a problem much better. Otherwise, we could give the problem a logical answer, but that logical answer might be short-lived. It might not answer the problem on the long term. So, like, for example, if you hate your job, okay, and the logical part of you would dictate that you stay in your job, but your emotional part want to quit and never look back. Okay, what's the most grounded answer that you can give to that particular situation? Okay, so for example, you might decide to start looking for another job. Okay, or you might decide to consider the job from another perspective, and for example start thinking about the nice colleagues that are in the job, so that you can stay longer in the job if the situation is pressing, you need to stay in the job. So that's what this card implies that when you face challenges, you try to use both your rational and emotional part, not just one or the other. Okay, moving on. Birthday boys and birthday girls, the Virgo friends. Let's see what the cards have in store for you on this Sunday, the 13th of September. Let's see. Ooh. The Sun. And this is a wonderful card, dear friends of Virgo. And how do we link this card when facing problems and challenges? Well, this card really makes me think that perhaps what you're going through in this part of your life is so good that even the problems have a different quality. Like they don't seem to be as big as they were only a few weeks ago. Okay, so it's kind of the light of the sun is making things looking better. And it's like also you are developing this ability of putting everything into perspective, which actually it's quite an important thing. It's quite an important quality to have. The ability of not making big deals out of small deals, okay? And this card also makes me think about, because there is a small boy riding a horse. So this card actually also makes me think about the importance of connecting to your inner child when dealing with problems. So perhaps there is an element of playfulness, so kind of laughing at yourself, if you like. And again, there is this element of not making big deals out of small deals, and perhaps laughing more about yourself, putting a little bit of humor in your life, and that helps in dealing with problems, because as the sage say, life is far too important to be taken seriously. And moving on, Libra. Dear friends of Libra, let's see what the cards have in store for you. The Fool. Here he is, sorry, it's a guy. So the Fool. The Fool is, it doesn't really have a number within the tarots. He is the number 0. Okay, potentially it could be the first tarot and the last tarot. Okay, it doesn't really matter. What matters about the Fool is that he starts something. Okay, so how do we link this to obstacles and challenges? Well, let's have a look at this card very briefly. This guy doesn't really see problems, okay? He doesn't really mind about problems. And that actually is a very good attitude to have if you are starting something. So instead of worrying too much about what could go wrong, you kind of pay no attention to it. Now, I'm not suggesting in any way that you should be reckless, okay? But what I'm telling you, dear friends of Libra, in relation to challenges and into problems, is actually that perhaps you should consider, when you start something new, to try and focus on the positive, okay? Instead of considering what could go wrong, try to consider what could go right. And most importantly, and I have been repeating this over and over, but because I feel it's a big theme for you, you have this wonderful quality of being the pacemaker, okay? You are like a key member in many groups, because you like bring peace, you bring many groups together. But this is sometimes to your detriment, because you don't think about what you want. And this card is actually a reminder of you. You have the power to go into the world, to pay no attention to the obstacles, but in order to do so, you really have to be committed to your goal. What do you want? Just think about it, okay? And remember that you have in yourself the wonderful ability of the Fool to go out there, to go into the world, to achieve what you want without paying too much attention to the obstacles, because you know that you have the strength and the inner resilience to overcome them. Okay? Moving on, dear friends of Scorpio. Let's see what the cards have in store for you. The Moon. I really had a feeling that I was going to pick the Moon for Scorpio. Why? Because, you know, Scorpio, when we talk about problems and challenges, my friends of Scorpio usually rely on their intuition, okay? Why? Because Scorpio have this quality of kind of thrive in the darkness, okay? And they might perceive problems and threats even when they are not directly visible, okay? So other star signs might consider that the situation is fine, but Scorpio kind of, perceives that something is not really right. It's kind of, they have the ability to see beyond the surface, okay? And the moon is the queen of darkness, okay? The moon is really the queen of our intuition. The moon can shed light on, challenges and problems that are not directly visible, okay? So dear friends of Scorpio, this is actually a wonderful reminder of a quality that you already have and that you have been using. So this card actually makes me think about keep using it, okay? And perhaps there is also an element of true, it is in the darkness, true, it's not directly visible, true, you perceive that something is not quite right, but also try not to think too much about it, okay? Kind of, it stays in the back of your mind, but if you feel paralyzed, like if you never do anything because you feel something is not quite right, you'll never go anywhere. So there is also an element of risk, okay, of doing things anyway, even if something is not really right. And I'm not saying take unnecessary risks, but what I am saying is that sometimes we kind of need to have a leap of faith, okay, and trust and do things and perhaps deal with consequences. But there must be an element of action, not only inaction, okay? So think about that. Think of how this sits with you, okay? And moving on, Sagittarius. Let's see what the cards have in store for my friends of Sagittarius. I'm trying to pick other side of the deck. Sorry. And it is the Ten of Swords. Now, challenges, problems, the Ten of Swords. Now, Ten of Swords, I mentioned in the previous readings, the 10 as a number is the end of something, okay? It's the closure of a circle. Swords usually represent air, communication, intellect, okay? How does it sit this with my friends of Sagittarius, which are all about fire and passion and going towards a goal, sometimes being a little bit reckless, okay, not thinking too much about the consequences, perhaps going a little bit on the impulsive side. Now, this guy here has been literally killed, okay? 10 swords on the back. How do we link this to problems and challenges? Well, first of all, the meaning of this card is very interesting because the situation is not as bad as it looks. So even if a situation looks completely desperate, perhaps it is because you needed to let go of that situation, okay? And there is a wonderful dawn in this card, kind of suggesting new hope, new life, okay? So this card seems to suggest that perhaps you have been hanging on to something that really wasn't serving you, your purpose, your passions anymore, and you kind of need to let that go, okay? And you don't dwell very well in this liminal place between the end of a project and something that it's coming, but it's not clear yet, okay? But that's exactly where you are at the moment, and that's perhaps the problem and the challenge that you're facing, okay? It's a good reminder for you to exercise one of the qualities that perhaps you're not very familiar with, which is patience, Okay, all good things to those who wait, and things will wait. Things will change. Things will come your way. But in this case, instead of going after things, you kind of need to pause and wait for things to come to you instead of you running after them. Okay? Capricorn. Let's see what the cards have to tell you. Let's see. The Queen of Cups. And how do we link this card to problems and challenges? Now, the Queen of Cups is pure water, okay? Now, I know that Capricorn is an earth sign. I know because I'm a Capricorn myself, but actually we have an excellent relationship with water. Half of our sign, of our star sign, really, literally, the picture, even in this picture that I show you, half of us is a Pisces, okay, is a fish. So we are kind of quite comfortable in water, okay? What kind of water though? The water that we are very comfortable with is the nourishing water, okay? The emotional water. And depending on how our astro chart is combined, sometimes we don't feel very comfortable with feelings and emotions. And I know that this is an apparent contradiction, but you know, this is how we work. Okay, so it's like we want water, but we don't want it. We want it, but we kind of refuse it. So, how do we link this card with problems and challenges? So this card seems to suggest that what the problems and challenges that we are going to face this week are of emotional nature. Okay, so for me, this card actually means that instead of approaching every single situation from a pure rational point of mind, we need to include also our emotional part. So, for example, if we have a problem with a colleague, instead of going, with brute force towards this colleague and, telling him off, like, for example, you're always late, try to check if something is going on in his life, on her life. So, okay, he or she might be late, but is everything okay in their life? And it is okay, to show this compassion, to show this vulnerability. Doesn't make you less, less professional. If anything, actually, it makes you more approachable. People will work with you much better if you show this vulnerable part of yourself. So there is an invitation, dear friends of Capricorn, this week to show that other part of you, the emotional part of you, and bring this wonderful quality of compassion and vulnerability in your work and in your life. Okay, and remember, the Queen of Cups, actually, she is a queen, so she has mastered her emotions, and she will be able to bring emotions in a very nourishing way without being too oppressive. Okay, moving on, my friends of Aquarius. Let's see what the cards have to say. The King of Swords. How do we link this king to Aquarius? Well, interestingly enough, we picked an air card, and Aquarius is actually an air sign. So it really kind of matched very well the Aquarius attitude of being very, sharp, focused, very communicative, very intelligent, very, very smart. And the King of Swords is also someone who is fair in his dealings, okay? So, dear friends of Aquarius, this week, the advice of the tarot in regards of problems and challenges is actually to really use your best judgment, okay? And to also use your logic. Now, you know, I usually think that logic works best when married with, you know, emotions, and when used in combination with emotions and with, you know, the rational and the irrational, if you want, they go together. But in this case, dear friends of Aquarius, this card really seems to indicate that you really need to make the best use of your mental abilities, okay? I don't know for what reason, but perhaps there is something in particular that you are dealing with where your mental strength is particularly required, okay? So, try to think about this and try really to focus on what I am saying to you. And yeah, perhaps it is a situation where your highest judgment is required, okay? And what actually I find very interesting in this card is the butterfly at the top of the throne. And the butterfly usually is a symbol of renewal, okay, of new beginnings. So it kind of really makes me think about perhaps something new is coming along, and you really need to use your best judgment when this something new is coming, or perhaps your best judgment actually will allow this best new thing to come your way, okay? So keep in mind that. Let me know in the comments if it makes sense, okay? And finally, last but not least, my friends of Pisces, let's see what the cards have in store for you. And it is the Five of Wands. Interesting card. And we are talking about challenges and problems, and the Five of Wands actually represent a battle, okay? Now, what I actually find very, very interesting of this card is a word that comes from the five, which is quintessential. Probably it's a bit old-fashioned, but what I really like about it is the root of the meaning of this card, and it comes actually from alchemy. And the quintessential was that element, that essence that really came out of any substance when put under any amount of stress, okay? It kind of makes me think in a broader sense that where we are put under pressure, when we're really fighting for something that it's worth for us, we really show our true colors. We really show who we really are. So this card, dear friends of Pisces, seems to remind you that perhaps you're going through a tough time. Perhaps you're going through a fight. But the important thing for you to remember is actually that once you come through this fight or this obstacle, it will be really you. You know, it will be the essence of you that, you know, you will kind of touch in these difficult times, okay? And this is something, you know, which is very precious. And, I mean, also, of course, when it happens, it is very painful. But what I try to say to you is kind of stay in touch with the end goal. Not actually the here and now, but this quintessential, this real essence, this real you that you will come across once you go over this period in your life. So, dear friends of Solar Body Alchemy, this is all for today. I am just checking because I'm using two different things. So, thank you very much for everyone who tuned in, and thank you very much, Eileen, for saying hello. Thank you very much, Alo. I think it's the other guy. Alina, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much, everyone who actually followed me in this afternoon, in this tarot reading for this afternoon. I really appreciate you staying with me today. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was useful and entertaining. And I will see you again next Sunday. Any questions, any problems, any suggestion, any feedback, leave comments below. And I wish you a wonderful Sunday. Okay? Bye for now.